A good mix of young and old. I just thought the right players were chosen on form, but
Mm.
also some key players were chosen, I feel, as game breakers. And they really deserve to be there because they put their hands up. And the two guys I'm going to name, probably controversial for you know us folks up here in the North Island, but Whainganuku was one, right, and Frizzell is the other. And the
Okay.
reason why I say these are controversial because they're both leaving, right?
Ah,
At the
okay, I'm
end
with
at
you.
the end of the World Cup, they're both leaving, so their time in the black jersey is limited. It's numbered. Their days are numbered, and obviously the coaching staff know this, but they still chose them. So there must be a good reason why they've chosen them. And I believe the reason why they've chosen them is they've really put their hands up and they really have shown, mate, pick me for the World Cup and I will do the damage. And it looks like they will, both those two players. So um, those are the key ones in terms of one forward and one back. I'm a big fan of the front row that they've chosen. They've gone for, you know, they've gone for a bit of experience in Nepololala. They've gone for youth. I'm a massive fan of Taukeaho, at the expense of another guy who I'm a fan of, Asafo Aumua. Um, yeah, I think the props and the hookers are looking good. Um, in terms of locking pairs, I really want Brody and Sam to have a great World Cup. This may be their last one together. Um, yeah, I think Sam should go out on a high if they can, go as hard as possible. I'm not sure whether that first game against France is going to be a W for the All Blacks. I mean, if we're going to drop one, I hope it's that one, and then we win all the rest like South Africa did, um, and take it all the way. But yeah, if we are going to drop one, I hope it's that one and not on the business end of the World Cup.
Yep, yeah, I agree with that. And just saying that, if they do lose that game, I think that will be the first time ever the All Blacks have lost a pool match. And
Oh, is that
that's,
right?
I'm pretty sure, I can't recall them ever lose. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they've won all their pool games or every World Cup. So
Mm.
it'll be another, your Foster haters. And people will probably put me in that category. We'll just use that as more ammo to be like, think this guy's no good. But yeah, just on those two guys you mentioned, Fainganuku and Frizzell, this is the first time that the All Blacks coach has effectively been told he's no longer required after the World Cup. So normally,
Mm.
when they're picking their squads, they still think that they might be part of it. They haven't made that decision until after the World Cup. So if you still think you're going to be part of it, there's still that continuation. We want to keep building for next year because you might still have to be the coach next year. But
No.
with Foster, he knows he's out. So he's just who's going to win it for me now, and that's where those guys are good now. And then next year, well, that's Foster's, that's Robertson's problem. So yeah,
Yeah.
good thoughts there on that squad. The guy I thought was quite lucky was actually Caleb Clark. I thought he was lucky to be there. I rate him highly as a player, but I was a bit more worried about the mix. So Bodie's been playing 15, so if you include him as an outside back, they've picked six outside backs all up. They've only picked four locks, and Retallick's carrying that injury, and they've got five Lucy's as well in a position which has got quite a high attrition rate. So I probably would have sacrificed an outside back for either another Lucy in Sami Penny Final, for instance, or more lock cover for Brady Retallick's injuries. So maybe someone like Josh Lord. And Caleb Clark, for me, he's probably been the most underwhelming of the backs, outside backs so far. So he would be the unlucky one to miss out. Also, he's a specialist left wing, and to me, he's not the starting left wing. Mark Tiller is the starting left wing. So can you just carry a guy who can only effectively play one position? I'm not sure about that. So he was the one who I thought was quite lucky. Lucky there, even though I'm a diehard Auckland fan and a Blues fan. Yeah, and
Yeah, for sure.
Finau was one who I thought was quite unlucky. He played really good. We talked about this sort of off air. He played really good in that one test that he got, And you're thinking if that's sort of a trial for him, I thought he passed, but obviously not. Hmm.
Yeah, I think I agree. Look, I think probably 90 to 95% of that squad were right on with the selection in terms of Aussie selections. The unlucky ones had to be some Benny Finau, and the lucky ones, like you say, Caleb Clark, I thought was lucky. I'm a fan of his as well. But Christie was another one I thought was lucky.
Oh, that's
Right.
heart wrenching
I'm
for
a
us Blues guys. Eh?
I'm a fan. I'm a fan as a Blues fan as well. I want Christie in there, but I thought he was lucky. I thought he was lucky. But I think the All Blacks have the luxury of having these guys on call. Brad Weber, Finau, Joe Moody, Stevenson. They're in the standby squad. Or the wider standby on call. They're probably training with the team or the squad. And if there's any injuries, I'm sure they'll bring them in. So they're only an injury away from realizing World Cup berths.
Yeah, they're right. And we saw that 2015, the kick which Roger always talks about. What's his name? What Stephen Donald was out white baiting and he's called upon, so you never know.
He loves bringing that up, doesn't he, old Roger?
He does. So you pick your 33-man squad, but it could be 34, 35, 36 to actually get it done. So, and we have seen that. So you're right for those guys on standby. Just because you didn't get initially selected, they should still be training hard, and you never know, you might get your opportunity, just like Stephen Donald. So,
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. One more comment I would make on the that particular squad is that it is time for Captain Sam Cane to really step up. He needs to make his mark on this World Cup as a skipper.
mm,
He's been plagued by injury and he hasn't really produced the kind of form that got him into the All Blacks in the first place. The past few All Blacks captains have basically carried our national side
mm,
on their shoulders, and it's like through guts and determination and strong will and not wanting to let the team down or the fans down or the entire country down, like Adi Savia, for instance, case in point, right? So Sam Cane really needs to step up in this World Cup because that's going to be his legacy, I believe. I'm not sure what it's going to look like for him in terms of how many days he has left in the jersey, or how many seasons he has left in the black jersey. But I'm thinking this World Cup, he really needs to step up. Otherwise, he could be looking at, you know, being put out to pasture.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I'm just pulling it up now. He's only 31, which isn't old by modern rugby standards, but you're right. The toll that the way he plays is taking on his body. He looks like he's nearly 40 out there. But we'll carry on that same kind of discussion because one thing which did pop up in the news recently was an article from the Northern Hemisphere from Stuart Barnes, basically lambasting the captain, Sam Cane. So the gist of his article was, he's not good enough. He's not McCaw, which he mentioned, which I don't know who is, and he thinks Papali'i should be starting and so forth. So not sure if you saw that, but any thoughts on that with Kane? And also we talked about the captaincy. Do you think he's the right guy to be the captain, and should he be starting for the All Blacks?
Oh, that's a tough one because you've got a guy like Adi Savia, and Adi can assume the position of captain. But I'm just wondering if in a World Cup tournament, whether that's going to take away from Adi's natural game, right? And are we going to rely on Adi to play his natural game, to be that game breaker, to be that leader within the team that the others can aspire to or be inspired by? Um, so I wonder if Sam Cane, you know, will also be inspired by the fact that he's got Adi alongside him, or he's got Adi ready to come on. So that's not a bad thought to have in the back of your mind when you're under all that pressure. At the same time, I just wonder if I wonder if Sam, his injuries take away or distract him from, you know, the job at hand, and he needs to really perform. He needs to step it up. He needs to bring his A game. He needs to, honestly, he needs to put it all on the line and empty the tank throughout this tournament because it could be his last in the black jersey.
Yeah. Yeah, I think the thing also with Adi, because I wouldn't mind Adi as well, is that there's no question about whether he's the best in in this position or if his position's up for grabs or anything like that. No, it's obvious he's one of the first names that you write down, and that's where McCaw and that analogy comes true because McCaw was always a guarantee as well, and you got to
Mm-hmm.
command your position first, and then you can be the All Black captain. And that's sort of like a good way of looking at it. So I remember I hate using this analogy now, but I used to bring it up before with the Reuben Thorne scenario, where Reuben Thorne's position, he wasn't always the best sixth, but because he was the captain, he kept getting picked. Now, I don't like using that for Sam Cane because I think Sam Cane's a bit better than that. And Rog, who's a regular on this podcast, he's probably falling out of his chair listening, going to hear what I'm about to say.
Mm-hmm.
But I've actually come around to Sam Cane, particularly with the form of Frizzell, who you mentioned earlier there, Joey. You know, his athleticism that allows Kane to play a bit more tighter and sort of disrupt opposition ball and tackle the shit out of anyone who moves and, do that sort of dirty work, which he's really good at. And I
Mm.
think Jason Ryan, who I always give a lot of credit to, he's really transformed the All Black forwards and he's brought that physicality back. And Kane, he's a big part of that as well. So I was clamouring for Papali'i right up until the start of the year, really. But I think Jason Ryan can get the best out of Kane for the All Blacks more than, say, what that previous assistant coach Tom Coventry was doing before. So, yeah, I'm coming around to Sam Kane. And Rog, he's not here to gloat to tell me that he was right all along, which is probably a good thing. But Rog, I think you had a point on Sam Kane. I know he's a big fan. So, yeah.
Mm.